On today's show, we will be interviewing Jacob Steinmentz, the first Orthodox Jewish baseball player drafted by a major league ball club, the Arizona Diamondbacks. We will hear his story from navigating the minor leagues to playing for Team Israel and much more. Plus, in our mailbag, we'll talk about a possible auction strategy for daily leagues, and we'll also have Ruvain's injury update. That's all coming up next on Beat the Shift. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. How are you, Ruvain?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and we have a special guest on the show today. He was a third-round draft pick for the Arizona Diamondbacks back in 2021. He's the first Orthodox Jewish player selected in an MLB draft. He played for Team Israel and pitched for them, started a game in the 2023 World Baseball Classic. This past year, he threw 62 strikeouts in 72 and change innings with an 18.5% strikeout rate combined with a 43% ground ball rate at A-Ball in Arizona. Welcome to the show, Jacob Steinmetz. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. And by the way, you have two personal connections with me. One is you had an assistant coach with you in your high school, a guy named Jason, who actually plays softball with me on Sunday mornings. That's one.
Yep.
And your father and my wife were in the same class in elementary school together.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yes. I was going through some old yearbooks just randomly a year ago and looking at my wife's 8th grade yearbook, and I'm like, Elliot Steinmetz, wait a minute. You went to the same school? And there you go. So personal connection here.
Cool. Very cool.
So just a little bit about your background and history. How did you get into baseball growing up? I'm assuming you played Little League. You played in high school. Like, what was your intro to getting into baseball?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, so as you know, but not sure how many people do. My dad's a basketball coach. Has been for a while. Always been a basketball family. So basketball was always my first sport, but I always played baseball. Whether it was t-ball in our shul league, in our synagogue league, or once we started Little League, and I just fell in love with it really from a young age. So once I turned 7, my dad started reaching out trying to find some higher level competition. So we started playing travel ball, and just from there, it kind of took off. Obviously, it took a couple of years for it to become serious, but I really just fell in love with it, and so it started from a young age and really just stuck with it.
Do you know what age you started to throw, let's say, 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, 90? Like, do you have those milestones?
I don't have the exact, the 70, not as much, neither 80, honestly. 80 was probably, I could say, freshman year of high school, maybe. But 90 is not one you forget very easily. So I remember that one. That one was, the first time was actually COVID. It was still during COVID. It was, I want to say I was 16. Turning 17 that year. So it was like that summer of 2020.
And you were drafted right out of high school. Now, my son and Ariel's son, they both made their own baseball team as freshmen. We want to know, I don't think our sons are as good as you are, but we want to know, how did you prep yourself and be able to be noticed from a small high school like you came from?
So it was really through travel ball, was kind of how I started, just getting seen by colleges first. It really wasn't even thinking pro ball up until senior year of high school, but just trying to get recruited by colleges kind of just gets your name out there. But for that, I just really had my travel ball coaches. I got very lucky that all my travel ball coaches throughout the year have been really great people and always had my best interests first. I know there could be a bunch out there that have their ego or their team's ego or whatever it is. But thankfully the guys I always played for had my interests, and they really wanted what was best for me. So they were reaching out to a lot of college coaches that they knew. And that kind of got my name out there for college. And then kind of over COVID, things obviously start shutting down. I started working out a little bit more. So summer of 2020, my travel ball coach happened to have been a former scout, and he reached out to a bunch of his friends that were in the area in Long Island that were still scouts, and they came and watched some of the games. And I performed pretty well, thankfully, that summer and into the fall. And that was kind of how I got my name out there going into my senior year. And then I went down to Florida March of 2021, a little bit before the draft, at a program called Elevate, which is really just like a baseball academy down there. And once I thankfully already had my name out there, and I was working with a couple people that are now my agents, but before then you call them advisors because of the NCAA rules. They started reaching out to a bunch of different teams and scouts, and they were coming to see me. And thankfully, I was performing pretty well down there also, so it kind of just shot up from there.
Right. Ruben and I were back in Arizona about a month ago, and I know you visited the Salt River Fields over, Diamondbacks complex there, and just wanted to get your take on what has been your experience so far as a first-year minor league ball player.
It's been awesome so far. Salt River, that's where our spring training facility is, and that's kind of where our home base is. So, I mean, I, in my opinion, which could be a little biased, but I've seen the other ones. We have one of the nicer facilities in Arizona.
Definitely agree.
Agree.
That's all right. Good to hear the unbiased opinions then. But yeah, so far it's been awesome. All the guys have been great. The team's been unbelievable. Whether it's accommodating for religious, whether for religious, I guess aspects of it, whether it's kosher food or Sabbath or holidays or whatever it is. And then baseball-wise, they've been unbelievable so far. And I mean, their performance this year definitely speaks for how they've been doing development-wise.
And what were your goals for this past year, and do you think you achieved them?
My goals for this past year were really to just kind of get a feel of what full season at an affiliate is like, because my first full year of pro ball I spent in the complex league, which is still technically rookie ball, still part of the minors, but it's definitely a different feel than being with a team going on road trips and traveling to different places and stuff like that. So being able to kind of get out of Arizona and be in California all year and get to know the guys on that team and really just hang out with them, and you build a different bond when you're on 4 or 5 hour bus rides with these guys as opposed to 30-minute rides in Arizona, and then you're just going back to your hotel room. So it was definitely cool to get out. And the baseball-wise, my goals, I mean, I didn't really have very high goals. I was really just trying to focus on getting through healthy, which thankfully I did. So I guess you could say my goals were completed on that part. But for my first year, I really just wanted to try to, like I said, get out of the complex in Arizona and just start my pro career.
And what are your goals for next year? What are your own personal goals, and what do you think the Diamondbacks expect of you for next year?
Well, I can't really speak for the Diamondbacks part because I haven't spoken to them about that yet. But for me personally, I mean, it's obviously always to just perform the best I could. But I guess like more specifically, one of my goals for this year is to start in high A, and then finish the year in double A, and hopefully get an invite to the Arizona Fall League at the end of the year. So obviously pretty tall tasks, but I think I'm capable and hopefully have a good enough year to show it.
Absolutely. So you were drafted 77th overall, which I'm not sure you're aware of this, but the numerical Hebrew equivalent. Now, like I say, Hebrew equivalent. If you take the English alphabet, for example, A is 1 and B is 2 and C is 3 and so on and so forth. If you do that with the Hebrew alphabet, the equivalent of that is actually adds up to 77, which is the word mazel in Hebrew, which is luck. Are you aware of that?
I actually did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, there you go. So you were drafted at the mazel pick of the draft.
Almost too good to be true.
Yeah, there you go. So can you tell us the experience of being selected and such a high pick, and a little bit about your decision to go professional instead of going to college?
Yeah. So, yeah, thankfully it was a pretty high pick, because otherwise I would have been sitting there at my house with a bunch of my friends for a couple more hours. It would have been a little bit awkward, but it was definitely a cool experience. Going in, I kind of had a range of where I would be taken, anywhere from rounds 3 to 5. So thankfully, I kind of had an idea, so I wasn't going to be really sitting there all day. But it was super cool to have all my friends and family at my house, being able to watch and celebrate with them. And then going pro, I mean, for me, I had pretty good grades, thankfully, but I wasn't the biggest school guy. Not super interested in all these classes and finals that are going on now. So thankfully, being able to skip out on that and being at just such a young age, getting into pro ball, and almost having a head start on the guys that come out of college. Just like, for example, like a couple of the guys that I got drafted with were turning 24 the same day I turned 18 when we got there. So just kind of having that head start on the development at a pro level was definitely probably the main reason, I'd say, for why I decided to go pro instead of college.
And before we go any further, it's time for the Injury Gurus Trivia of the Week.
So earlier this year, you played in the World Baseball Classic for Team Israel. You started a game. It was against the Dominican Republic, and you faced 9 batters going 1 2/3 innings. Can you name the 9 batters you faced? And as a bonus question, how many of those you faced were or are current All-Stars?
I could definitely give you the lineup. The All-Stars I can try to guess. So we got Juan Soto, All-Star.
Yes.
We got Julio Rodriguez, All-Star.
Yes.
Manny Machado, All-Star.
This is a tough lineup that you faced.
Yeah. Now that I'm like kind of thinking ahead through it, I think they might have all been All-Stars at one point, but we'll go through it. Rafael Devers, All-Star. Ketel Marte, All-Star.
Yes.
Jeremy Pena. Ooh, he might not have been. Was he?
He was not an All-Star yet. No.
Not yet. Yeah, he will be. Heimer. No. Yeah. Was it Candelario next?
Candelario next. He's not an All-Star.
He was an All-Star. He wasn't this year?
Was not this year, no. He played like an All-Star, but didn't.
Yeah, right? I was going to say he had a pretty good year. And then Gary Sanchez, All-Star back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
You missed one. You missed one so far. One player in that lineup you missed.
But
otherwise, pretty good.
Oh, hold on.
Are you a Yankees fan? Were you growing up as a Yankee fan?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so who's their arch rival?
Devers. I skipped him?
You skipped Devers, yes.
Oh, my bad. Well, he was right after Machado because I walked him on 4 pitches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Machado struck out.
Maybe that's why I forgot about him.
Yeah, because it was so quick, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
But how did you get to play for Team Israel, and what was your experience like playing against this major league talent?
So the first question, I reached out to him, or actually I should say my dad reached out to him a couple years back, really. Just getting in touch, kind of just like, I guess, starting a basis. We didn't really know. This was like a bunch of years ago. Like, I hadn't even thought about pro ball yet. Was still trying to figure out where I was going to go to college and stuff. So he reached out to a couple of guys that he knew through Maccabi, and just trying to set a basis, like, just in case a couple years down the road something came up, whether it was Olympics or this World Baseball Classic and stuff like that. But not really like having an exact idea whether it was going to work out or not. And then thankfully the draft came around, I got taken, and then had my first year. And we like reached out again, knowing that that it was coming up, and they were telling us it was going to be a tough decision because obviously I was so young and they weren't really sure exactly how they were going to be able to use me, and they had a couple guys they were waiting on to see if they were going to play or not. And then eventually, a couple weeks before, they let me know that I was going to be on the team, and I mean, obviously it was a super cool experience. Going in, I had no idea when I was going to be pitching, if I was even going to be pitching. So we got down there on a Tuesday, had an exhibition game Wednesday and Thursday against the Marlins and then the Nationals. And I knew I was going to be pitching Thursday, didn't exactly know when, and they told me I was going to be starting the exhibition game Thursday. I was kind of like, oh, all right, cool. Like, I'm a starter. That's good for my routine. I'll be able to get out, go through however many batters and get back in and be done. And end up going 1, 2, 3. So that was definitely cool, facing a major league lineup, even if it was in spring training. But even then going in, I really had no idea what the plan was for me. for the actual games themselves. So we got to Miami, spent Shabbos there, didn't have any games or anything, obviously. And then Sunday morning we get to the field for our game, and the pitching coach, Josh Side, pulled me over in the locker room. He's like, hey, we're going to have you start on Tuesday, I think it was. And I go, all right, sick. And I'm like going through the schedule in my head, and I like realized what team we were playing against. I was like, oh my God, like, this is gonna be a tough one. So, but yeah, so really, thankfully, he gave me those couple of days to prepare, and I was able to kind of get the nerves out of the way in the first couple of days. And then once I went out there for warm-ups, I guess, was when I was the most nervous. Just kind of walking out there, doing my stretching on the line and running a little bit or whatever it was, just looking around the stadium, because I've never pitched. Before that, the exhibition game was probably, I don't even know how many people, maybe 5,000. That was the most people I'd ever pitched in front of, and I was more nervous for that probably than the one in Miami. So thankfully I had that one at the exhibition game, because that one really kind of, obviously it's a little more people, but it was just I guess at that point it doesn't really make that big of a difference. But thankfully I had a plan going in that I was just going to attack them and not try to pitch scared, and really just try to focus on the catcher and not worry about anything else, whether it was the crowd or who's hitting or whatever it was. And thankfully it worked out.
And being the first drafted Orthodox Jewish player, what's your experience been like so far? And which former or current Jewish players do you look up to?
So far the experience has been unbelievable. Like I said before, the team's been super accommodating, whether it's ordering my kosher food for me to California, or getting me another hotel for the Sabbaths so I can walk to the field, or even giving me off on holidays. So far the team's been just really making everything as easy as possible. So that's thankfully not even been at all difficult. And then, sorry, what was your second question again?
Which Jewish players, either current or
Right,
past,
yeah.
have you looked up to?
So I mean, obviously there's Sandy Koufax. That's always a cool one because of the whole Yom Kippur story and everything. But didn't really watch him growing up, so I guess there weren't really many, like specific, like Jewish ball players, I guess, that I was looking up to. I was always just a massive Yankees fan, so anyone on the Yankees, I was just always rooting for and looking and watching and looking up to. So I'm not sure if they've had many. So yeah, I can't really say a specific one.
Okay, so which player has most influenced you, would you say?
I don't really. I guess I haven't really like thought about it as much. I get asked this question a little bit, but I guess just growing up now, the last couple of years when I was trying to go pro and commit to college and everything, watching Garrett Cole on the Yankees has been obviously pretty cool. Considering this year you won the Cy Young, obviously, but he's a Cy Young caliber pitcher. Him pitching every year, and just being able to watch that is super cool. But really, in general, just all the top guys, whether it's DeGrom or Garrett Cole or Scherzer or Verlander, like all those guys, just watching. I just enjoy watching good pitchers in general, I guess. Like I'm the type of guy that'll rather a 1-0 game than a 10-9 game. So
Same here. You just rattled off 3x Mets, by the way, with DeGrom, Scherzer,
yeah, for about
Verlander.
3 weeks.
Yeah. And I guess if you're a Yankees fan, you're not gonna have rooted for the Boston Red Sox Kevin Youkilis, who is a known Jewish player as well.
Yeah, well, he was actually our hitting coach for Team Israel. So
oh wow.
I've changed my opinion on him. He's now a very good guy.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We also had Matt Mervis, by the way, on our show last year.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, he's a good dude also.
Very good dude. Very good dude. Talk a little bit about your dad. Your dad is the coach of the Yeshiva University Maccabees team. You have that team had an unbelievable winning streak, like almost a 50-game winning streak, if I recall, right?
Yeah, it was 50 on the dot. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your dad's role in all of this, and having a coach in your professional coach in your midst growing up, how that really influenced you.
It definitely helped a lot. Obviously, with the college aspects, it's just him kind of knowing what he's looking for in recruits. He was always kind of able to give me the right advice and the right things to say and stuff like that. And even now, and I guess even while growing up, him knowing how annoying some parents can be complaining to coaches, so he was never that kind of guy. And also him having the self-awareness that he was a basketball coach, not a baseball coach. And he's just always left it up to the coaches that I was around. I give him credit. Him, my mom, they always just surrounded me with good coaches, like I said before, but like they never were trying to pay all this money to play for the top teams that are always just trying to get their best team and don't really care as much about where their kids are going to go or what they're going to do after baseball or even after high school, because after that you're not really doing anything with them. So they always got me around these coaches that had my best interests in mind. And back to my dad as a coach, he's always able to kind of separate that parent from coach kind of relationship, I guess, where he can tell whether or not I want to talk about it if I had a bad outing. And he could always give me some advice, just kind of not baseball wise, or now he's picked it up a little bit, but really just how to handle myself.
And speaking of coaches, without giving any secrets, what has impressed you the most about the Diamondbacks organization, and any other teammates or anyone else in the organization, other prospects, have impressed you so far?
Well, so I mean, the coaches have just been, I guess I don't know how it is in other organizations, obviously, but I can just say just for what I thought pro ball was going to be compared to what it is. The coaches are really always there. I guess like should have known because they're full time. Obviously, not like I had the idea that as my dad is a college D3 basketball coach, he's part time. But these coaches are obviously just always there and always available to ask questions to and help you out, whether it's during bullpen sessions or games or practice or whatever it is. And what other prospects have impressed me? There's a couple teammates that I played with that either were struggling and finished off the year well. Like I always respect those kind of guys that have a rough stretch. Like I mean, I don't want to say names or anything. I don't know if they'd want me to, but like there's one kid that I know started off the year pretty poorly, got hurt, and then came back towards the end of the year and hit 400 the last month. So that was super impressive, and hopefully he'll keep it going.
All right, so this is the Fangraphs podcast, and we talk a lot about analytics on the show here. So I'm wondering, what analytics have been presented to you thus far? How have you interacted with analytics? Are they showing you pitch graphs? Are they giving you numbers? How have you worked with data and analytics as far as what you've been presented with on the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know how it is again at other organizations, but it seems like we're a little less analytically driven than other teams, at least with what they present to us. Obviously, we have all the basic ones with spin rate and spin direction and movements and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the main stuff I look at. I'm not like a big in-depth numbers person like some other people are. I'm always kind of just get outs kind of guy, I guess. Like let the results show on the field, not really in the numbers, because the numbers could be as great as you want, but if you're not getting outs on the field, then it doesn't really matter. And obviously they could correlate, but I always do appreciate some of the analytics parts, whether it's the Rapsodo or TrackMan or stuff like that. Just kind of being able to tell you how your stuff's moving that day and how hard it is and spin rates and all that kind of stuff. And that definitely helps during games, especially where you could kind of know what pitches are working and what pitches aren't. I'd say that's probably my biggest use of them, is coming in the dugout between games and really just getting to know, like, how's my velo today, or how's my slider moving, or how's my curveball moving, and change up velo and stuff like that. And really just being able to know what's working that day, what's not, and being able to adjust using that.
Now, you mentioned on watching Garrett Cole and stuff like that, and he had a whole scandal about having the sticky stuff. And in this state of baseball, there's a whole issue of whether the ball is sticky, whether it's tacky, whether it's all that kind of stuff. Have you had any issues with it? Have your teammates had any issues with it, with handling the changes or anything like that?
The changes, not as much. I mean, just for me personally, and I know a couple of the guys that have come in a little later because they made the changes. Actually, I think it was I want to say it was my first year that I just got drafted, so I wasn't really like used to anything before that. I'd say the baseballs, when they are just fresh out of the box, are tough to throw. They try to rub some like mud on it. I don't exactly know what the exact substance is, but I know each ball that's used in game is done that professionally and inspected or whatever it is. I've never used the sticky stuff. I've heard good things about it from other people. But I don't have any problems with the baseballs in game.
And in the future, there's always talk of having robo umps. What's your opinion on that?
Um, as a pitcher, it's a very love-hate relationship, I'd say, because I actually just saw a video of not the robo umps but the challenge system, and it's definitely cool when the pitcher's able to challenge it because you always want that extra inch off the plate or whatever it is. So that'd be a reason I'd say for the human umps. But then there's also different situations where you might get the call with the human ump, but the robo ump isn't going to give it to you. I actually just saw a video on it. I think it was either today or yesterday, of a pitcher throwing a strike three on a 3-2 count, and then the batter challenged it, and it ended up being a walk. And I was kind of like, oh well, I don't like that part. So I'm kind of hoping we could do just one way, where it helps the pitchers, but I'm not sure exactly that's going to happen.
All right, so now a very, very important question. What's your advice to me, a 41-year-old small softball pitcher? How do I get more strikeouts? I've improved to about 5K per nine. So that's pretty good in a softball game.
Yeah, I'm not exactly familiar with the softball analytics, but
Most people
five
aren't, so
Ks
don't
per
worry about
nine.
it.
Yeah, 5Ks per nine sounds pretty good to me. I don't think I have any advice. I might need to take some advice from you, actually.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Jacob. Jacob Steinmetz, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on the show here. We wish you really the best of luck in your career and going to this year. When do you have to report to spring training?
I'm not sure yet. Spring training usually starts for pitchers and catchers, obviously mid to late February. They might have us back early for a little bit for some stuff, but not exactly sure yet.
All right. Well, good luck in that. Great new year. And Reuven and I will be back with the injury report next. All right, and we're back on the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Let's do one mailbag question we have left over from last week, and then we'll get to the injury update soon. This is from Jim Lulo, who asks, I'm thinking of doing a starting pitcher streaming approach this season in a 10-team auction league, Daily Moves. What are your thoughts on focusing a heavy majority of auction money on every hitter position, knowing the pitchers will turn over and pitching counting stats will rack up? So he's basically asking in a daily league, how about just ignoring pitching? We're talking about almost like the Labadini plan, just a minimal amount of money on total starting pitching, but pounding the hitting. What do you think about that approach? In a weekly league, I think that's a terrible approach. You're so unbalanced. But what about in a daily league? Could that be doable, Reuven?
In a daily 10-team league, that is probably the most doable, but it's still very risky. I probably would stay away from it, only because you need to have someone to stabilize your ERA and WHIP. Because if you keep just streaming guys and you're hoping this guy pitches well, and remember, all the good guys, all the top guys will be off the board already, you don't know where you're going to get. You're not going to get that many strikeouts. I guess you can do two-star pitchers, but the inning pitchers don't go that far into games. You're not going to get that many innings. Wins are so variable. Sometimes it's good to have one or two anchors. If you want to stream the rest and go like that, and even stream closers, you can do that in a 10-team league. You probably could get away with that. But I wouldn't go so much. You can't stream every single day. I mean, technically you can, but I've never seen it done, and I've never seen it successful.
Yeah, I was thinking about answering very similarly. Well, first of all, the fact that it's daily, it makes it somewhat doable. In a weekly, I mentioned, forget it. 10-team league, more doable than if you were in a 15-team league, mixed or more or deeper. That just, you won't have enough of those pitchers at the bottom. The replacement level is much lower. That it's just not feasible. 10-team, you might be able to do some of that. But I would recommend, if you were going to try to do like the Zima approach, which is get one ace, at least you lock down one ace, and then you can go cheap and try to get some skills low down. That is possible to work. Again, I wouldn't do it because it's risky, but that's possible. So I would go for one heavy ace, get your Spencer Strider up top, and then go cheap. So you're allocating some portion to an ace and then take shots. I mean, I think that the dollar shots at the bottom generally don't work out. I'd rather you take shots somewhere between the $5 and $10 range. If you want to do it that way and say I'm gonna avoid the blob in the middle from like the second round all the way to the 10th round, sure. To go dollar is probably overkill.
And then if you're streaming every day and you're using if it is a fab league, you're gonna be using your money constantly, and you're gonna miss out sometimes if you spend fab on a streamer and for just for that day and they get rained out, it's a waste of money. Are you gonna hold on to them? You're not gonna hold on to them. It brings up a lot of different issues.
Yeah, you have to be prepared about the fab because you're going to have to use more. Like, you might want to also incorporate getting your closers and spending on that, right? Because if you don't spend on your closers, then you're going to have to get closers in season, and that's going to drain your fab even more. So there's a lot to take a part of this. And I don't know if this is a roto league or a points league, but in a roto league, do you have to kill every single category by that much? I don't know if you have to divert $220 out of your whole budget. It might be overkill.
And based on our philosophy, this type of team would finish somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, right. You'd be low pitching and high hitting. Listen, try it. Use our suggestions here. Give it a shot, and at the end of the year, let us know how it worked out for you. That actually is pretty interesting if you would. All right, injury report, Uvain. What do you got for us in the offseason?
Well, this episode was mainly about pitchers, so I'm going to throw a couple pitchers out there. Daniel Hudson, who missed the second half of the season because of an MCL sprain, was re-signed by the Dodgers. He seemed healthy and was possibly going to be activated if the Dodgers made it to the NLCS, so he should be good for next year. And he's a guy to look at toward the end of their bullpen. You may want to take a streaming pick on him, either at the end of a draft or something like that, if he shows that he's healthy during spring training. Shohei Ohtani, have to mention him. He had the big contract and everything like that. He had a second elbow surgery. We all know about that. He had his big press conference. We found out the name of his dog, but we didn't find out the exact nature of the surgery that he had. So if he did have a second revision of Tommy John, he is a DH for this year. He should hopefully be back either first month, second month of the season. But as for pitching-wise, not many pitchers have come back from 2 elbow surgeries, let alone 2 Tommy John surgeries, and have been effective. Could he do it? He is a unicorn, but if you're in a keeper league and you're keeping him as a pitcher, I don't know if you really, really want to do that. You may want to think about trading him and selling him high, I guess, right now, as much as you can say. Alek Manoah, Blue Jays general manager, said that he has General Manager Ross Atkins said that Manoah has earned the right and have a strong leg up for the opening day starting rotation spot. He was shut down at the end of September. He had injections for a sore shoulder, and the GM also said that those injections were Manoah's idea. And he wanted it was his decision. We supported him. He made the decision on his own to move in that direction. There was no structural issue. So there's something to think about going into next year. He looks like he will have a roster spot, so you may want to take a stab at him. He may be a guy to look at. Luis Severino, another guy coming off of injury issues from last year, another year removed from Tommy John surgery, had a lat injury in the beginning of spring, had a high-grade oblique strain toward the end of the year. He has already posted himself a video of himself this offseason throwing. He is a bounce-back candidate. That's why the Mets signed him. High risk, low reward, and sorry, I got that wrong. High risk, high reward type pitcher. That's what it is. And it's a very good chance that you can get him real cheap, and he may turn out to be a great pitcher or at least a serviceable pitcher. Another guy, Johan Oviedo, he had Tommy John surgery actually earlier this month. He is out for next year. And one more I want to end with, Clayton Kershaw. He told the radio station actually this week that he's still trying to decide where he will pitch next year. He is 5 weeks out of shoulder surgery. He said he, quote, feels great and will be back at some point this summer. So he's another guy. You may not want to take him right away, but you may want to think about him toward the end of the draft if you have room to stash him on your bench.
I got 2 points to make on that stuff. So one, Alek Manoah. He's going right now ADP around 370, let's say, according to the NFBC. Probably most of them are like draft champion style leagues. I mean, that's got to be a good shot at pick 370. I mean, who the hell knows what the hell happened last year? But I mean, he was an all-star.
Yes. His bounce back and his ceiling is high. We've seen his ceiling, so it's a matter of whether or not he's healthy and he gets the opportunity.
Isn't that worth the shot? I mean, right now it's December. Isn't it worth the shot to take that if you're drafting really early right now?
Why not? You got at this point. I don't like drafting this early, but yes, it is definitely worth a shot because who else are you going to get around that spot in the draft? I mean, they may have similar value, and Alek Manoah has a chance of that's a really good upside pick of being a top notch starting opening day type pitcher if he's healthy and if he's right
for a good team that gets wins.
Yes.
So
yes,
I think so. And Shohei Ohtani, I mean, all that tracking that flight to Toronto. Why didn't anybody send like an investigative reporter to see what the dog's name was? That would have been a better clue.
Yes, I think we're more concerned about his dog than his elbow, which is a good distraction method because he's known as a two-way player. How much longer will he be able to be a two-way player? He signed a 10-year contract. How many of those years is he actually going to be pitching in if he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries?
And how much time is he going to miss hitting wise at the beginning of the year?
He said he should be ready by opening day. I mean that's what the word around the word been going on. There's a possibility that he'll be ready for opening day. I don't see why not, or at least mid-April or to end of April. I mean, if he was just a hitter, Rhys Hoskins had elbow surgery, had a Tommy John type surgery and was back for opening day, and he had an off season or like the second week of the season. So it's possible that he can do it. Will he be at 100% and playing at 100%? It's a matter of how much the Dodgers want to push him.
Well, what does it matter? He's only making $2 million next year, anyways.
That's true. Bobby Bonilla is making how much next year? So
who's
going to have a higher?
1.7.
Who's going to have a higher WAR next year? Bobby Bonilla or Shohei Ohtani?
Well, that's not a question there. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. is going to make more than $2 million next year as well.
Yeah,
he's not playing.
Yes, I think Chris Davis is also making more than that. So it's kind of a crapshoot for that.
That's crazy.
Whatever.
Well, that whole contract is a different discussion that I'm sure we'll all have later on. But thank you for the injury update, and thank you once again to Jacob Steinmetz of the Arizona Diamondbacks for coming on the show. Talk a little bit about being a first-year player in the minor leagues. All right, Ruvain, what's going on with you these days?
Well, you can follow me on X or Twitter. I am at MLB Injury Guru. You can catch up on all the injuries. I do post them as I see them, as they come up during the off season. You don't see a lot of them that much at this point because teams are not obligated to tell you anything. So you may not find a lot about pitchers or hitters until you get closer to spring training. But whatever I find, I do tweet out there. I also have a weekly in-season article for Rotoballer. You can catch that, and also hopefully that'll help you on a weekly basis with your injury problems.
All right, I'm Ariel Cohen. My stuff over at Fangraphs, over at Rotoballer. ATC projections will be up on multiple sites in January, about the third week in January. So look for that then. And us on the Beat the Shift podcast will be back in January with all new episodes. We'll be going weekly then to get you prepared for the draft season. So I want to wish everybody a very happy and healthy New Year. I know it's a week early or so, but happy and healthy to everybody.
Yes. And hopefully everyone will be able to learn from their mistakes from last year and make resolutions not to make them this year.
All right, that's a wrap. Thanks again from all of us here at Beat the Shift. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.